year up in Michigan, and last show in Kentucky was really good, but at the same time it exposed some holes in our development. So this week was about trying to think a lot more about rideability. Well, let's look at the Grand Prix. But first, we have a little bit of whiskey. This is something I found here in Michigan. This is a Mammoth Distilling limited release Northern Rye whiskey. Looks like batch number 1. So I've never seen this before, and I saw it at the supermarket and thought, we'll try it. But you can tell the first thing that I see, I mean, it's hard with my black shirt, is the color's quite light. So that tells me potentially 2 things or 3 things. 1, it's not aged very long. 2, they didn't use a lot of char in the barrels. And or 3, it says it's aged up here in Michigan, and the climate is a lot colder here. So there's less penetration in the wood. It penetrates slower, so you get less color change than you would a spirit that's aged in, say, Kentucky, or I've tried one that was aged in outside of Las Vegas, and it was like dark. So those 3 factors can change it. But I mean, yeah, when you smell it, absolutely a rye. It does smell a little bit on the younger side, but you don't have that same mashy cereal grain type nose that you have when you have a higher corn percentage in your mash bill. Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's a little bit spicy, just like, actually, what is the proof on this? 50. So that's, your standard bottle and bond. It's not bottled and bond, but that's your bottle and bond amount. Absolutely a rye, absolutely on the young side, but what's nice is it does have a sweeter finish to it, so you do have the spice and the brightness from the rye, but it's rounded up by some sweetness and a little bit on the mashy. But again, that's not a bad thing. That's a flavor profile, and it's up to you to what you prefer yourself. So I like it. I'm gonna have another sip. All right, so let's watch the round. So the main goal for this round was to just calm things down, go for more rideability, and try to make the lines easier to canter. A little bit slower to fence 1. The 7 was nice coming down to fence 2. In Kentucky, I was just letting the stride get too fast. And so I just want to canter around a little bit more traditionally, but not too far. Actually in this line I did 10, where it walked a little bit waiting in 9. But I did that because the 6 after was a little bit short, so I didn't want to get too flying in. But you can see, we're a lot calmer, trying to keep everything from getting out of hand as it kind of did in Kentucky. A little bit of a steady 6 here, but a lot easier to accomplish. 7 nice and flowing, just nice. Again, we're not trying, to go for the hills of, speed. A thing that does happen, and you can see with that oxer, when you go a little bit calmer, there is a bit of a reduction in scope, which I'm okay with at this height. Once we can get a better mutual rideability, then we'll change the canter and the scope will be fine. But we're cantering along just nicely, and a little bit continuing to the last fence. And the way she jumped this last fence, I knew that we were feeling really good. So happy with that. I was able to maintain the rideability throughout the course. Last time I showed her, the beginning of the course, the rideability was just on the edge of workable, and then as the course went on, it got harder and harder. And I was more or less allowing that to happen because I wanted, more canter. But I overdid it. So coming here to Michigan, my goal was to try to tone down, that amount of canter and just be able to canter around in a more predictable way. And I was super happy with that. I was super happy with the rideability. I feel a lot more confident now going forward, and that was what I wanted to see. So now we go into the jump off, and what's amazing with her is You know, I'd love to always pick a bigger canter, but I can't fit the strides in the first round. You know, like the second to last line was a steady 4 to that last double. If I have a bigger canter, I physically can't fit the 3. And I physically can't do I physically can't fit the 4, and it's completely reckless to do the 3. So that's why I need to work on the rideability in the first round. Where in the jump-offs, depending on the jump-off course, obviously, you could leave strides out. So I can pick that bigger canter that, you know, it's more comfortable, and there's not an issue of rideability, because our rideability issues with her are more in fitting the lines in and not in turning or a more traditional issue when you're going faster. With her, it's all about fitting the lines in. So let's watch the jump off. Okay, so same first line as the first round, and instead of 7, canter up, do a nice continuing 6. It actually got a bit steady by the end. And then a really nice U-turn in 7 to fence 3, same fence 3. And I wanted to get I didn't want to be too rushing here because I wanted to be coming to the left on landing of that vertical. She did that great. A little bit of a blind turn to this vertical. And then I was trying to encourage too much to the left, but she still turned like hell on landing. See, pulling a bit too much here. I saw one less in my eye, but I just didn't believe I could make it. That was my mistake. And then again, do 6 strides forward. She was great. Okay, so look, there's some stuff to work on. You know, namely, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4 the way that I wanted. The turn was a bit blind to fence 5, as I just spoke about, and the angle you're hitting fence 5 in the jump off at, I wanted to make sure that she got her eyes on the fence. So I was encouraging more left, and I think I overdid that. That's why you saw such a left drift off the floor. She doesn't drift left, but that was because I wanted to make sure that because sometimes what can happen when you're on a blind turn like that with an angle, and if you just try to jump it straight, horses can sometimes scoot out to the right and not jump. So I was trying to make sure that we jumped the fence, but I ended up overdoing it. I didn't know it at the time until obviously we took off. And so we landed hard left, but then she's so good at turning, she turned immediately. And then I was a bit surprised because going to the second last, you know, A of the double, you have to see the distance through the previous fence. And I saw the one less, but I chose not to take it because I didn't believe it was possible in that, you know, tiny split second of a moment. That feeling was wrong, and you could see that on approach, I was pulling too much to the second to last. And there was easily one less there, and it just would have been normal. And it's just one of those, with a horse like Kara, who turns so well and is such a gamer like that, it takes a minute for the rider to understand what is possible. Because with a lot of horses, you see that distance, the same distance I saw, but it's just not possible. And so you learn to not take that. Where with Kara, it is possible. And so I need to get, you know, to have that adjustment to when I see that distance, I take it immediately instead of second guess or add. And other than that, I'm super happy. I think my goals for this week, I feel like we accomplished the goals for this week, which, you know, is always you know, winning is great, of course, but the goal this week wasn't to win. The goal this week was to work on, you know, certain other things that I touched on earlier. So now she has 2 weeks off, and then we'll do another 3-star here in Michigan, and then a 5-star the week after. We won't do the Grand Prix for that. We'll do the Major League Team class, assuming everything goes well, but that's the plan coming up.